r/Askreddit by Robotainment. Have you ever woke up in the middle of a dream and the dream was so interesting that you wanted to go back to sleep to see the end of it? If so, what was the dream? Was exploring a jungle with a group of our friends. We ended up discovering some kind of temple, but it was dark, so we decided to set up camp. I was charged with gathering dry wood and leaves for the fire. While macheting my way through vines, I heard my name being screamed by one of the group members in a terrified way, repeatedly. Woke up to see my mom yelling my name and to get the fuck up already. I never found out what that temple was. Edit. I have never watched any adventure movies like Indiana Jones or Jumanji, nor have I played any Uncharted game. This is going to sound crazy, but I had a dream exactly like that, and one of the people in the camp went missing. But it continued, and we found out there were jaguars in the area. I used to have lucid dreams in my early to mid 20s. As soon as I'd realize I was asleep, it'd start flying, or just rising to the ceiling, because it was a cool way to test it. Then my immediate thought would be who should I pretend sleep with, and the excitement over that possibility woke me up every damn time. A moment for our fallen bro. I learned I could fly, but I had to teach myself. Woke up right as I was gearing up for the big test to see how high I could go. Force myself back to sleep, and lem tell ya, flying in a dream is way too fucking fun. A long time ago, I had a dream that there were ghosts living in my family's garage. Nowhere else, just the garage. I somehow became friends with one, but she was unable to speak to me, leave the property that the house was on, and wasn't able to show any facial expressions that wouldn't be considered terrifying. Me and my ghost friend were playing on the house porch and two guys were trying to break into the house. She tried to stop them by scaring the living heck out of them by making a terrifying face and screaming the most blood-curdling scream ever right in their faces. I wasn't able to see the face she made, but I somehow knew it was there, and all I could hear was the scream. The people trying to rob the house ran off, but instead of celebrating, I curled up and started crying because of how terrifying the scream was. I absolutely loved that ghost, and I forgot that her whole purpose was to scare people, but she did it to protect me in the house. I still cried though, and she tried to cheer me up the best way she could. Then I woke up. I knew that was a dream, but I didn't want to leave my ghost friend alone, knowing the last time she saw me was when she scared me to tears by accident. I tried to go back to sleep, and I did, and I somehow successfully re-entered the dream, only it was several years in the future. The garage still had a couple of ghosts in it, but not nearly as much, and the rest seemed to be oblivious to humans. I was going into the attic and found some pictures in there of me around the age I was friends with the ghost, and on a picture I saw a very faint image of her face standing next to me. I went down the attic and woke up. I didn't get to tell the ghost that I forgive her or anything, and I still feel some sort of emotional attachment to her. It was probably the best nightmare I've ever had, and one of the dreams I've wanted to go back to the most, just so I can tell her that there are no hard feelings. Edit. Thanks for comments everyone. I was just procrastinating and scrolling through Reddit and saw this post and thought, oh yeah, that happened to me once. I was seriously not thinking much of it and wasn't expecting this many people to be interested in it. This has made my day. How many people have interest in this? Thanks, another Reddit for good reasons. For y'all out there, this is about my dream where ghosts exist, and one of them I became friends with. I appreciate the support in the comments, but please stop wishing/hoping that we meet in real life. A ghost is a ghost. I would feel physically ill if I saw a ghost, wholesome or not. Thank you for your time. One last edit because of skepticism. It's been like 5 months since I left this comment here, and looking back on it, I probably should have cleared something up. I remember this dream pretty well, because I wrote what I remembered from it on a piece of paper that I had brought to my room before I went to sleep, so I could draw. I used to read it every now and then, and I had memorized most of it eventually, and had written a very short story based off of it. I have since lost both of these pieces of paper, and they've probably been thrown out by accident by now. Either way, I hope that clears something up regarding my memory of this dream, and yes, I know that my edits are starting to become the length of my story. You don't need to tell me. I very much enjoyed this story. Thank you. I was friends with Jesus in the modern day, and he was sound. Not preachy. One of the lads like, did he by any chance tell you to kill the president of the United States by spinning really fast? When I wake up in the morning, I usually have 30 more minutes before I have to actually get out of bed. If I'm having a dream before I wake up and I go back to sleep, I can usually continue the dream. Last night I had a dream that I was in some kind of resort/Jurassic Park like area. I went back to sleep this morning and managed to get into a relationship with a pretty hot dude who was working at the resort. It's like Hollywood forgot to take down the set. A few months before I got married, I had a dream where Bill Murray was attending my wedding and asked to make a toast. I happily agreed. Then, before I could hear the toast, I woke up. I have a story about when the opposite of this happened. It was a fucking epic fantasy dream, let me tell ya. Evil wizard of some sort that I'm pretty sure was my 8th grade math teacher, kidnapped princess, a worthless but snappy sidekick that was my best friend in real life. This dream had everything. So I beat the bad guy, rescued the princess, and brought her back to a village of, I think, Uoks or something, I dunno. Big celebration, everybody went hooray and stuff, and then, it didn't end. We just kinda stood there looking at each other. It felt like a long time. Uoks just kinda start milling around and doing their everyday shit. Made some small talk with the princess. And then eventually the dream ended and I woke up. It was a strange one. Edit. 2 words. This was like the 4th strangest dream I've ever had. I had one where I was wandering through my hometown for what felt like hours, and eventually the dream became lucid, and the dream dragged on, and I was just walking around looking at stuff. Eventually I started thinking that I'm probably late for school, since the dream went on for so long, and I tried to figure out a way to get myself to wake up. I tried lying down on the ground and thought that people walking on me would probably do it, but it didn't. I didn't feel a thing. So I lied down in the middle of the road and a car hit me, and right before it hit me I woke up in the middle of the night. I once dreamed that all of my family and closest friends were on the world's largest cruise ship. Along the way, we somehow were exposed to radioactive waste that gave us all superpowers or other mutations. I remember so vividly being able to use my mind to move objects with ease, and I threw donuts at my brother, whose skin had turned as hard as stone. This one girl on the cruise, that we all universally hated for reasons I can't remember, received a really random and useless mutation. She grew a really fat lizard tail, like a leopard gecko who has eaten a lot lol. She was crying about how ugly she was now and all we could do was laugh. Then I woke up. I have so many questions lol. I dreamt that I was part of some Eastern European resistance movement who had to speak in code and hide out in abandoned manors in the forest to plan our attacks against some fascist regime. We enlisted the Pope to help us, but when we went to meet him, he has double-crossed us because the regime we were fighting somehow knew the Pope was gay and was going to tell everyone. I woke up then, not knowing if my resistance group was executed or if we escaped somehow. I call it my gay Pope dream. I had a nightmare a couple years back, and I still remember some bits. I was in a city where there was an outbreak of a disease. Infected people would start leaking black stuff from their eyes and noses and attack non-infected people. For some reason, I was walking in a part of the city that was completely deserted a couple days after the outbreak. Very faintly I heard someone crying. I approached and found out that it came from a backyard. If I wanted to see who it was, I had to climb a high fence. When I walked into the backyard I was fucking horrified. There was a crying little kid, like 3 years old, on a leash, tied to a pole. I didn't dare to approach, because that child was leaking Valk stuff from the nose. I woke up after this, and was still horrified. The parents had to leave their child, who was still alive, chained to a pole outside. That fucked me up for a couple of days. I would watch this movie. I died in one of my dreams, so that was startling. But I was dead for a good 15 seconds or so in my dream, so that was interesting to say the least. I die in my dreams all the time. I usually just end up in spectator mode. I think I've been playing too many video games. Most nights actually. I very rarely have nightmares, and even those are very interesting. Life inside of my head is much more entertaining than reality. I somehow trained myself along What a go to be able to wake myself up from a nightmare. Pretty great. Same, walking down a hallway in my dream and suddenly the end of the hallway goes dark and seems a bit ominous. I look at that and say UHH, now let's try again. So I wake up real quick and then go back to sleep. Oh boy, here we fucking go. I had this dream which I still remember vividly, even if I was 9 to 10 at the time. So, I was walking down the street and met my primary school teacher, a cute old lady with the driest humor ever. We talked for a bit and she invited me over to talk and drink some tea. I enter her house, she makes the tea, and we sit in this area with 3 walls made out of bookcases. In between there were these 2 somewhat fancy chairs and a round low coffee table. We talked for a bit and she starts telling me how she brought me here for a good reason, and she just does some magic or presses a damn button or whatever and a wall opens exactly like in Dexter's laboratory. She invites me in and I see all these people doing a variety of stuff. People being tied to metal hospital tables, in tubes, whatever. Everything had this technology kind of blue, and I walked through this huge mall-like revolving door. I realized I fell asleep a bit after walking, so it must have had some kind of sedative or something. Anyway, I wake up, and in my fear I'm tied to a metal table, without any skin. I can see my muscles, all of them, move, twitch and contract all, while I'm fighting to break loose from the table. That teacher comes by, and says to me in the lines of "Don't worry, it's all part of the procedure." I see other people around me, exactly in the same state. She releases me after a bit. She gives me this spandex dark blue suit and told me to wear it. After I put it on I could move like somewhat of a superhero. I could run really fast. I could jump really high. I was very agile and nimble. She told me I'm some sort of recruit and that she has a mission for me. After that I just remember teleporting to some place by my home with a gal that I knew by me as my duo, with the task to catch this black invisible morphing dog. I remember aiming at that thing with something like this bulky black blaster, after which I woke up. You can tell that my young me was very pissed for not being able to be a superhero. I had a nightmare about being a teenage girl with a group of friends on bikes hiding from and hunting down a shadow monster that killed dogs, and we tracked it down to some abandoned house and tried to rescue the dogs, but one of the dogs started barking and I had to try and calm it down before the monster came and got us, and my friend screamed from another room but then I woke up and I will never know if those dogs survived. Don't worry, they did. Hell if I know. All of my dreams fade away 20 seconds after I try to tell them to someone. The most I will ever remember is the feeling that the dream was awesome and that I want to go back. Never can. I don't remember. You can really spin a yarn, Karen, let me tell you. My son is in the Air Force and has been stationed overseas the whole 1/2 years has been in. Has in for 6 years instead of 4. So, anytime I dream about him, I want to go back to sleep to see him a little longer. May your son be safe in his ventures. I was eating the most delicious chicken nuggets ever. My ex and I got back together and she told me she's pregnant. I felt happy and fulfilled like never before. After I woke up the entire day was so ruined I didn't even know how to deal with it. Just wanted to dream for the rest of my life. I have a crush of 3 years who rejected me, yet I dreamt about being with her as couples. I know this will never happen in real life, so when I woke up, I forced myself to sleep again. Unfortunately that was the last of it. I feel your pain, dude. I still like a girl who feels no romantic attraction at all. The worst part is never getting a chance to see if it would work out. Hope you moved on better than I'm RN. I still can't give up. It was a dream where there were no debts, no stress, no pressure, no boss, no monotonous job, no homework. Oh, you wanted details? I have no idea. I just remember the weightlessness of being stress-free and being in a hardware store. I had one this morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, and whatever goes around me tends to get in my dreams. It's a curse at times, but this morning I had an Amber Alert at 3:30 AM, and my dream went from being okay to my friends getting incinerated by a nuke. I was the only one that survived, but by the time I was about to leave the bunker to see the devastation, I woke up turning off the alert. Okay, so me and a bunch of people started a band called Opalescent, which was an 8-person a cappella band that sung about global warming and multi-level marketing and politics. There were 3 boys and 4 girls, there were memories and everything. It felt so real, and when I woke up I was upset as hell. I'm not Pan. I'm talking about the other people. 3 boys, 4 girls and me. An 8-person band with 3 boys and 4 girls. I've recently become disabled. My dreams are of walking without pain or a limp. I'm so disappointed when I wake, and my disability is still there. I had one about time travel, but I had to look and be genetically different, and I went back time, but I woke up in the middle of night when it started. The end of the world on a beach. I was getting ice cream for my family when suddenly the sun went purple, started spinning and fell behind the horizon. All the sky followed, replaced by darkness. Gravity broke, we went down, and couldn't move anymore. All the world around us started to flatten inexorably, slowly drifting towards the dark rift at the end. A voice started to call different names and people got sucked into the night. Suddenly it was my turn. I glided to the edge freaking out, and as I fell over the horizon, I realized I didn't have a body anymore. I was just a gaze traveling in space. It lasted a very long time. We passed all the beautiful planets and slowly left the solar system. Then we traveled across the galaxy and left it too. Somewhere far ahead, in the total darkness, faint lights started to appear. Stars and constellations I never saw before. I knew at this moment that they were waiting for us, and even if it takes forever, we will reach them. And once we do, all our questions will be answered. Finally we'll know what's out there and why we exist. We were getting closer and closer. Almost there. I could feel it won't be so long. And then my brain chose to wake up. I desperately thought no, not now. Just a moment more. But it was too late. The dream was gone. I was so pissed. Sometimes I think my own brain laughs at me. This is also the opposite, but one time I had a dream that I was in my hometown airport, a pretty big one, when suddenly a shooting started happening down the terminal. I used to work at an airport, so I found the nearest worker and had them open the nearest door out onto the tarmac. We started evacuating people as the shooting came closer. Somehow I was the last person to go through the door. When I reached the tarmac, there wasn't a single person in sight. Even the noises from inside the airport had stopped. Up above me the clouds were blacker than night, and purple lightning was striking frequently. As I walked out into the middle of the tarmac staring into the heavens, airplanes started crashing down all around me very cinematically. Honestly, the sight took my breath away, and not in a good way. It was very dreadful and dramatic. I can still see it in my head if I focus. I woke up just as a 737 crashed right on top of me. I have a pretty crazy imagination. I dreamt my dad was still alive. I had this dream where I was some sort of undercover agent working for a secret agency. I did tens of assassinations of high-level target. I received a task where I have to kill some low-level target inside an office. I was suspicious, and as a precaution I took extra explosive and ammo. I sneaked into the building at night, cautiously proceed to the room where the target is working. Through the glass door I could see him working on his PC. I used a silenced pistol to eliminate him. After the assassination I was curious why I was sent to kill a low-level target, so I was snooping around in his computer and stumbled upon some rather interesting classified files which were linking the president of he country doing something which could destroy the whole country. Little did I know they were monitoring the PC, and I was caught reading those files. There were backup agents set to kill the target. If I'm not able to, they were ordered to terminate me immediately, and #X200B. Before I could process the information I started getting attacked by the other agents. 3 agents entered the room, and I was behind the desk, so I removed the pin from a grenade and wall banged them. Now starts my quest to stop the president. Entering a heavily armed base to kill the president. The action scenes are beyond explanation. I reached the president's room. I threw a grenade in the room. Somehow he managed to escape it, and when outside the base, I followed him, and people were running away from something, and there was ash falling from the sky. A volcano was erupting, and lava was flowing towards me. I see the president on a base on the volcano, protected by some shield. I was jumping over the rocks being carried by lava to reach the president, and then I woke up. I tried going back to sleep to see if I killed the president or not, but was not able to. That was around 10 years back. Playing bumper cars with Voldemort surrounded by Laffy Taffy. I wish I was kidding. I had a dream that I had a bunch of birds and snakes just living in my kitchen. They were my pets, and I was cuddling my snakes on the couch, watching Netflix while my birds were chilling out, flying on top of my fridge and stuff. It was a great dream, and it was so vivid that, when I was waking up, I thought, crap, I left my snakes on the couch out with the birds. I hope they didn't eat one of the birds. I was disappointed when I came back to my senses and there were no animals in my home, but relieved that I wasn't such a negligent pet owner that my imaginary snakes ate my imaginary birds. I think mostly just waking up from a regular good dream. I'll try to continue it the next night as I fall asleep. My situation was a bit different. I was once having a pretty vivid nightmare about a zombie apocalypse. In the dream, I was running from a horde and I ducked into a random house. Time then passed in the dream, and I put my head down to rest while I listened to growls coming from outside. At that exact second I woke up. I was relieved that it was just a dream because it seemed so real. However, about 10 minutes later I fell back to sleep and the dream actually resumed. I remember thinking, oh my god, this isn't a dream within the dream. The rest was even more vivid and terrifying because I was convinced it was real. That was a pretty tough night, but it was interesting how my dream managed to resume itself, and it did it in such a way that I was convinced the incident was actually happening. My small 10-minute wake-up period seemed like the dream. I awoke in a white bed, in a White House/plantation house/pantheon type building. I do not understand how all three buildings could coexist as one, but my head made it so. I got out of bed and noticed I was wearing a red flannel, blue jeans, and had short hair. And #X200B. I walked outside. All I could see was fog, a few pine trees. There was a slight breeze in the air. Air grazed by my face gently and coolly, sending goosebumps down my arms. Then I noticed I was standing on a moon pool. I looked down at it. The stars and moon shine down in such a pale blue haze. I looked up and noticed a slender figure at the edge of the fog, and #X200B. I watched as it knew her get closer. I began to make her out with more and more detail. She had long black silky hair that swayed gently with the breeze. A few more feet I noticed she was wearing a white dress, and then when the lack of fog revealed her true form, did I notice her pale skin. She had a oval and very beautiful face, and #X200B. We stared each other in the eyes. Then she says to me it's time to go in a soft but commanding way. I tell her no, not yet, in a stern but unhostile tone. We just exchange glances at each other for well over a few moments. Her eyes scream, you're going to regret this, but I hold to my decision. Just then I notice a little demon dog thing by her side, and #X200B. Then I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night. As 9-year-old me, I had dreamt I was much older than I actually was. I wanted to go back so bad and figure out what it all meant. Where did she want to take me? Why had I stepped into that body? Till this day this dream lays in my head vivid as the night it happened. Years ago when Valve released the orange box, I was a big TF2 lover, played the crap out of it. One day I obviously played too much as I dreamt being Pyro, and being in the game, just literally setting everything and everyone on fire. When I woke up I was actually pumped up with adrenaline. Oh how I long for that dream again. That reminds me of a TF2 related dream I had. I don't remember too much about it, but basically I was with some friends, and we heard that there was a spy in our area, and we all got super paranoid and rebelled against each other. A lot of the other comments are really cool dreams full of fantasy and wonder, but honestly mine was just a really good wet dream that got interrupted, so it's called lucid dreaming, and I'm happy to say I'm capable of doing this 10/10. I had a dream a few years back that I was at this party and met a girl. We hit it off, really connected on a lot of things, but then it hit me, I was dreaming. I told her that I was bummed because I just realized it was a dream. She didn't believe me, so I asked her what her last name was. She just stared at me blankly I told her she didn't know cause my brain hadn't given her a last name, but that we should just enjoy the time we have together. Then I woke up and fell back to sleep. I was at another house party. I remember walking around sort of aimlessly until I saw her. She remembered me and we spent the rest of the dream hanging out and holding hands and whatnot. Afterwards, it kinda fucked me up for a few days. Cheap, almost instant travel to different worlds with a portal ride that was like the Willy Winks boat ride, but not as scary lol. I remember the moon was almost entirely populated with vampires. Can't remember much else, but I went to a lot of places and woke up feeling confused and cheated. Willy Winks and the Oompa Loompies. Emma Watson was my GF. I had a dream where a girl brought me to her room. They threw me onto her bed and then I woke up. I tell you I have never tried as hard to fall asleep as that night. Okay, so I was dreaming of something weird that actually turned into the concept for a story I'm writing. So there were two islands that were shaped almost like crescent moons. The inner parts of the moons faced each other, creating a circle of ocean between them. There were two big nations on each with smaller settlements trying to win their affection and trust. The smaller settlements were trying to get in the good favor of the big cities for protection. In the center of the islands was a large sea monster that occasionally attacked the people, so they had huge walls with monster heads on them to try and deter it. Each city had its own politics, societal views, traditions, etc. The coolest thing in my opinion was that, even though the cities competed against each other, they still worked together to have a stable economy and made sure each other had the materials to withstand the attacks. I wanted to know more. When I woke up, I wrote down everything I could remember, and around a year later I'm still adding to the setting. Just got 10,000 words today, and I'm actually really happy about it. I'm in a long distance relationship, and I dream about my S/O all the time. When I wake up in the middle of the dreams I always try really hard to go back to sleep immediately, in hopes he'll conjure the dream back again, and get to see his sweet face a little longer. Although I understand you're not supposed to be able to read in dreams, I frequently dream him sitting in bed reading a great book. It annoys me that I wake up before I finish the book. I've frequently started browsing my Kindle looking for a book I want to finish, only to realize it was something I was dreaming and does not exist in reality. Like and subscribe for good luck, you handsome gentleman.